All right, ladies and gentlemen, sorry for that. We're a little bit back. Just getting the introductions here of Solar. And, of course, of Classic, as in the top, bottom right, it was Classic, in the top left, it is Solar. To rush back. I was going to the bathroom, but we are back. We're ready to go. We are into the game. Ladies and gentlemen, it's getting exciting. It's getting exciting. We are in to our qualifying match. Both these players have made it here, playing a decent bit of the matchup that they're now going to be partaking in, and both of them have looked absolutely insane. I mean, Solar, it's crazy because it always feels like Solar just gets better. He just gets better and better. And I don't know how, because Solar has always been insanely consistent. I think his consistency at his level, which was, of course, is good enough to, play with the top players, is good enough to play against the Marus, against the Rogues in ZVZ. It's just so good. Yeah, I'm excited for this. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a best of 3. And Solar is looking really, really good. Classic, though, in that last match, as we saw against DRG, able to pull it out in the end, but it looked sketchy for a while there. And had DRG not thrown that late game, could have been a completely different story. We could have had a ZVZ here in this qualifying match. And we're going to see what the build order is from Classic. Because if Classic just goes for the exact same builds, the exact same style, my one worry is this has all been on stream. Solar has been done for a little while now. There's a good chance that Solar could have just watched the stream and seen how Classic was approaching the matchup and can be ready to counter that. Now, the difference is we are actually seeing a second gateway here from Classic right off the bat. So there's no Stargate on the way. This is just straight into a second gateway. And I think this is Classic giving a little bit of respect here to Solar, as he's not going to be just doing the exact same build. That's a third gateway. Oh, Classic. Now, of course, this is a little bit of a trick, because right now, really what you're looking to say is, oh my god, look, I'm just putting down a regular second gateway. I have tech in my main base. That's not the case, though. It is just a 3-gate opening here from Classic. There's no additional tech, and this is an extremely interesting opener that I have not really seen before. See how it's going to turn out. More depth's going to be warped in. Overlord making its way into the main base. Stalker is going to try and push it back. I don't know if it's going to kill it in time, though. Ooh, Solar just turned around for a second, but we'll be able to scout the third gateway, the third warp gate. As Adepts going to shade it across the map. No resonating glaives. It is just the Adepts. So far, nothing to support it. No Stalkers, no Sentries. This is just the attack, a bit of an off timing here. Something that Solar might not expect. There's already so many Lings out on the map. That's Classic. He's going to stop any drones from being built or moved down to this third base, but you still have to be careful as that Queen pushing a little bit far forward. Don't quite have the attack speed on these Adepts. Yet doesn't want to shade into that main base, or into that natural base even, yet. Classic is taking a third behind this. Twilight Council on the way as well. Classic just doesn't commit in. Never takes that step forward and says, all right, I'm going to try and find, any serious amount of damage. We'll be able to deny those Lings from trying to get a cancel onto the third base. And it was a bit of a weird opening. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I was just mulling it over in my head. I think it was an interesting idea, as now we're going to be having the Adept Sentry composition be assembled here for Classic, who is working on Blink. He's working on +1. As a decent catch there onto quite a few Lings, but other than that, not much going on here for the Zerg player. Robotics facility on the way. Additional gateways going to be added on, and we're going to be seeing the +1 Blink Stalker attack alongside the Adepts and the Sentries. It's not the worst. It's not that bad. It's definitely feels like Classic has managed to maneuver this into a decent position. He's managed to say, all right, I know the opening wasn't the best, but I'm going to put this into a spot where I can now go for a pretty solid 2 or 3 base timing attack here. And it's going to be a pretty strong timing attack. That's a lot of gateways being added on. I don't know the exact number that he's going up to. And Solar right now is only at 58 workers. You know, Solar actually isn't ahead of workers. Solar made a lot of legs, made even roaches to deal with those initial Adepts. I think thought that it was going to be Resonating Glaives. And so, right now, Classic is on an even economy. He's going to be able to now push this position as these gateways finish up, as the Warp Prism is out onto the map with Blink. It's a pretty strong push here that Classic is assembling. Classic not pushing out just yet, though. He's potentially going to swing around to try and hit the 4th base, but Ling Run By is already being set up for this 3rd. Solar. Ooh. Oh, force fields are so good. As all those Lings are going to get cleaned up, and that was just gorgeous from Classic. But still needs to figure out what he wants to do with this attack. Right now, still has the probe production, but more Lings are going to find their way into the 3rd base, and I don't think you turn this army around. Immediately just warp it of an Adept and a Zealot. It's successfully deterred. So here we go. Warp Prism is here, Stalkers are here, Sentry is added on as well. Immediately the first 2 force fields are going to go down to slow this army down from Solar, so he can't collapse on into the Stalkers. Blink backs haven't been used just yet. The force fields are actually brilliant so far in keeping a lot of these units out. The Lings have been cleaned up, and now the Roaches are going to be able to come on through. Already starting a good fight, though, for Classic as Solar continuing to try and push this back. Corrosive Biles have been all dodged. And Classic just has to pull back. Doesn't really have enough to continue to push this issue. There's just so much army available right now for Solar, who, I mean, doesn't have a massive economy. He's at 62 workers, but has just so much in terms of army supply. Right now, seeing 15 Ravagers, 22 Roaches. It's a lot. Right now, Solar's army is massive. Now, of course, the run issue is if Solar is not able to find significant damage with this push, then, of course, Classic might be able to find a comeback, but there's just so much. And right now, you're relying on your Stalkers to be your main source of damage versus these Roaches. And sure, Stalkers are okay, but really, ideally, you want some Immortals with this push. As here we go, the push is going to come through. Solar is just trying to crush through it, but the Corrosive Bile's not getting the most value so far. The Blink packs are good with the Stalkers, but now there are Lings into the main base. There are Lings into the natural. As the Roaches are continuing to come through, there's no shield battery to help fill these shields on the Stalkers, and they're just slowly getting picked away. And it does just feel like this is going to start to slowly get out of control here. The Ravagers continue to push back. The Stalkers, the Corrosive Biles have all just been landing. And now Lings are going to continue to come across the map, and all these Stalkers are so low with no chance of getting healed back up with the shield battery. Classic supply is below 80. Classic is losing units. Solar is going to win game number 1. And yeah, Bunny is actually looking really good. I would not be surprised if he does manage to continue to advance and try and make a run for qualifying in the lower bracket, because he does look good. You know, he's recovered very nicely from his broken arm and that GSL group stage, which was oh so rough. But yeah, Ragnarok, man, so good. So good. Ragnarok. His form has been pretty impeccable lately. He's been playing just a really creative, really aggressive, kind of offbeat style that just players aren't really expecting. And it's been great to see. And Solar managed to take game 1. Kind of just had a read on everything. And it's a situation where, as the Zerg, you realize, oh, I've actually overmade units. I actually could have had more drones. My economy is not going to be in the position that I want. And Solar just had the read that Classic's still going to go for another follow-up timing attack. So he just continued on, got enough workers to make his economy manageable, and then just continued to look for the army max out from that point on. And I don't think we're going to see Classic do that build again. That 3-gate opening, it's cool. You know, you try and force a reaction out of the Zerg, and then you kind of go into your standard play from there. But it did feel like Classic committed a bit too much to something that never ended up really working out. The just pure gateway, you know, it's interesting because, you know, someone like Hero makes it work. Like, Hero somehow makes just this mass gateway army look really, really strong against Zerg. But it's just because of how he plays the transition, of what he does before. Of course, for Hero, usually it's Stargate into that. And so there's just that added little piece to the puzzle. And we are going to see the Stargate once again for Classic, and I would not be surprised if we do see Classic go into double Stargate, immediately go into, I mean, potentially just what we've seen from him in his past 2 ZVPs, which has been the Void Ray into Oracle, into double Stargate, Fleet Beacon, and then a third Stargate as your third base and your 4th. And that might just be what it is. You might just run back that build. I mean, Classic obviously feels comfortable with it. So I would not be surprised. So, there's though a bit of lag coming through. Of course, it's not sure whose end this is on, so we are going to call for a pause. Might be the Observer, yeah. That should be it.
Game paused.
All right. I don't believe those matches are being casted right now because we had the qualifying match of Ragnarok versus Bunny, and they had already started when those ended. So I don't know if anyone has been able to hop into those, unfortunately. There we go. Second Stargate +1 air weapons on the way. Classic just doing Classic things. This is his build. This is his bread and butter. So this is my baby, and I'm going to use it as much as I want. No one can tell me that it's wrong. Void Ray is actually going to be able to get a snipe there on the Overlord. Loses a bit of its hull plating, but honestly, not that bad. You get a bit of HP off the Queens, you manage to snipe an Overlord, and then pull away. As Rotorworn on the way for Solar, and this is what I was talking about. Solar knows that Classic does this. I think there's a good chance that Solar potentially could have watched Classic's match versus DRG. Could have seen what Classic was doing. So might have an idea as to what this build is. Of course, at this point, you're not quite sure. You've seen the Void Ray and the Oracle, and that's not really a tell. Seeing the second Void Ray, of course, is a little bit more telling. Usually, you know, on this match, you're not going to see 2 Void Rays unless the player is planning to commit to them just a little bit more than usual. So Solar should start to be a little bit skeptical here. Spire's on the way, and it looks like Solar is going to be opting for the Corruptors, potentially even Mulas. Again, I would like to see duelists, but most likely will be Corruptors as the Fleet Beacon starts up. 4th base on the way in Classic. Just kind of hitting the timings as he would like. Solar as well has his 4th coming up. Wheel Reconstitution as well for the Roaches, but as we saw, the Roaches I don't think are the correct choice. I think the way that DRG handled it in Game 3 was correct until the point where DRG was not taking aggressive trades when he had a bank and when Classic was down in supply. I think that was the big issue for your DRG, and for Solar, I think he's perfectly capable of handling the exact same style. You know, Lingbane, Ultra, and then have your Corruptor, Broodlord, Infestor, Viper army kind of moving across the map, trying to find openings and power pushing one location while you find counterattacks with the more maneuverable and fast ground units. And I absolutely think that's really a good way to approach this matchup and to approach especially playing against this build. So we're going to see the 10 Corruptors immediately on the way for Solar. Aurea started on his +1 ranged attacks and the Carapace upgrade, so it's going to go into the Roaches. And, you know, if we see potentially, you know, Classic go into Disruptors as he has been, it could be a case where, again, Classic has an army that is just very, very powerful with Flux Veins, with pretty much just Void Ray Disruptor, and is able to power push down the Zerg and find enough damage that he's able to then outgrow them in the macro game. Because right now, I mean, look at the work count. It's 88-80. Both players are sitting at 4 bases. Of course, Solar is taking his 5th a little bit ahead, or quite a bit ahead of that. Classic was not even started on his quite yet. But right now, we're still really looking to see what the plan is for Solar. As +2 ship weapons on the way. Disruptors have started to get added on. More Corruptors, more Roaches. Solar approaching maxed out. Pull the Corruptors back to help deal with that Oracle. It does end up just cleaning up with the Queen, but here we go, maxed out. Solar is working with a very, very strong army. A lot of Roaches, a lot of Corruptors. The Queens are also coming across the map right now. Of course, the creep is not spread far enough that they can start to use those transfuses, but regardless, the push is coming through. So here we go, diving on in, a one-shot onto the Void Rays. First Disruptor shot not getting that much value. Solar, great splits. Only loses 1 Ravager to each Disruptor shot as Solar is going to look to end this game early. He doesn't want it to go late. As another snipe, Ravager body almost hits the camera. Disruptor shot goes out, gets a few Lings. Zealots are being warped to help deal with the Lings. Disruptors still continue to try and chase down these Void Rays, but you need to try and get one-shots if you want to clean them up quick enough. So here we go, Disruptor shots onto the Queens. No transfuses available. Solar might just have to pull back from this position. Has found a decent amount of damage, though. Has started to slow down the Protoss. Oh. Uh-oh, Classic here getting a bit aggressive. Is actually pushing forward as the Corruptors are just going to fight the Void Ray straight up. The Corrosive Bile actually gets a ton of value as Shield Battery Overcharge has not been popped. Finally is going to get used, but it's after a lot of the Void Rays are already going down. And Solar just continues to push even through it. Knocks down the Shield Battery. The Void Rays are all going to fall. The Roaches might eventually get cleaned up. There's a good Purification Nova. The Zealots have no upgrades. They are all going to fall. The Corruptors are still fighting the Void Rays. The Queens are coming back in to support. The Shield Battery trying its hardest to keep these Void Rays alive, but it is not enough. And Solar shows you how to power push down this Protoss army. He does not care for your Void Rays. He does not care for your upgrades. The +2 air weapons only now finishes up, and it is as the last Void Ray falls out of the sky. Classic is below 100 supply. The 3rd base is under attack. The 4th is still healthy. But at this point, I don't think there's really any recovering from this position. Two probes have fallen. Classic is going to try and recover out of this. He has a bit of a bank to work with, as cannons at his 4th can bring over his units. The Shield Battery Overcharge gets popped, warping of Zealots. But And immediately, all the Artosis pylon and GG. Solar showing you how to deal with Protoss quick and easily. A swift 2-0, and he's going to move on to be qualified alongside Ragnarok.